Hello, welcome back. This is A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm Reverend Tomas. Let's talk about healing and trust again, shall we? Oh, yeah. So, where we are is in the Manual for Teachers of A Course in Miracles. The seventh question: should healing be repeated? All right. First of all, let's back up in case you've missed some of the most recent prior videos. What is healing? I invite you to ponder that, definitely, to ask yourself that. What is healing? In A Course in Miracles, entirely predictably, I might add, Jesus lets us know in absolutely no uncertain terms, very clearly, that 100% healing is of the mind. It is of the mind. Does curing a physical ailment in the body constitute healing? Yeah. Ultimately, healing is of the mind. So it's worth kicking that definition around in your mind and considering it. Whether you're ready to accept that decision or not doesn't matter. It will wait for you. It will. My job is simply to teach this course, really being taught through me. Again, what you're looking at is a projected image on your screen, after all. What's going on here is that there's a deep part of you that wants to listen to this message. So I invite you not to turn it off in that case. Or if you're going to turn it off right now, of course, I can't stop you, but I've already said what you needed to hear. And count on that, trust in that. That's the theme of today's conversation, trust. So whether what I have to say or not sits with you doesn't matter to me at all, actually. My job is simply to share it with you. As we're about to see, I have no investment in the outcome. And if I do, that means that I have made a mistake. Should healing be repeated? Healing is of the mind. And as we saw in the last video, the question was, is healing certain? Yes, period. Yes, healing is certain. So, because healing is certain once offered, it does actually not need to be repeated. Jesus just comes out and says, well, the question really answers itself. Once performed, healing does not need to be repeated. So here's where in the world we get ourselves into some difficulty, as we're wont to do. We get into difficulty when we don't see an immediate result. Now, healing is of the mind. So does that necessarily mean that right then and there, we're going to see what we consider to be in terms of the physical body, in terms of the world around us? Are we necessarily going to see something that we deem appreciable and concrete, right? Tangible proof. I mean, do we have proof, according to our own very limited evidentiary standards here in the world, that this has worked? Because it's of the mind, we may not have that immediately, which makes sense, doesn't it? You don't always know what the outcome of your practice is going to be. It's like saying a prayer. You don't know the form in which it's going to be answered. But as we saw in the last video, in terms of talking about healing and giving and receiving, healing is the release from fear. So what form does that take? Well, we don't necessarily know in the moment of the gift, do we? But we do know that gifts are always received as they're given simultaneously. It's part of the gift. It may be that the recipient of the gift does not yet accept it. So be it. So be it. I simply share my experience and A Course in Miracles, not my interpretation, see, of what A Course really says, cast in the language of the world so that we can pretty up the body and go out and procure a brand new Maserati, which I think would be really cool, but really that's not the point, is it? The point of spiritual practice is to change your mind. It's to release yourself from fear. It's not to put on a different suit of clothes. That leaves the problem still in place, the separation, our perceived separation from God, and therefore from each other and everyone else and everything else, and all the way down to our very self-limiting belief that we're stuck in a body competing with other bodies for apparently scarce resources with these things in place that are simple agreements that we've made called economic systems and global currency crises and inflation and poverty and war and rising interest rates and all of that stuff. Spirituality invites us to take a step back from all that. Every spiritual tradition in the world, at its core, is really saying the same thing. You have asked, whether it was to yourself or out loud or rhetorical or to the universe, you've asked if there is a better way. You may have told yourself that, gosh, there's got to be a better way or an easier way, or this can't be all there is to it. Of course, it's not all there is to it. Part of you knows this. This is why we're drawn to spiritual practice in the first place. Will you be drawn to it in this lifetime? Well, you are. You're watching me. You've even heard the phrase, A Course in Miracles, and you think, miracles, right? Something about this material has drawn you in. Truly, something about it has drawn you in. Something about it causes you to continue to pay attention. So, I appreciate that, but not necessarily on my own behalf, on behalf of yourself, capital S, which is myself, capital S, by the way. And every other living thing appreciates you taking this deep dive. So should healing be repeated? It doesn't have to be repeated. The function of the healer, if you want to call yourself that, the giver in the context of giving and receiving, right? The function of the teacher, if you wish to call yourself that. And by the way, you don't have to hold yourself out in the world as any of these things to still be doing this action. Our function as the giver, as the teacher, healer, whatever, is to trust. Remember, that is the first and foremost characteristic that Jesus mentions that is in the list. There are 10 characteristics of God's teachers, which we've covered here in these videos. Trust is first and foremost. Trust in yourself, capital S. Trust in who you are, and trust that when you give the gift lovingly, when you extend love, the gift is given and received. You have nothing else to do but give it again. So if there is a delay, apparently a delay in the person's acceptance That's not up to you as the giver to order. It's not up to you to go forth and worry about it, which is really concerning yourself needlessly. Jesus refers to that as a lack of trust. If you give a healing gift to someone and apparently they don't accept it, and you go forth and beat yourself up, berate yourself, doubt your abilities as a teacher, as a healer, whatever you want to call yourself. I don't really call myself a healer because these aren't doing any healing. Healing is of the mind, remember? And it's not my own individual mind. It's shared. What I'm doing with these messages is sharing the Holy Spirit with you, which is part of both of our minds. It's part of everyone's mind. It's shared. I'm sharing with you. So if you choose not to listen, so be it. That is your choice. It is not up to me to worry about that. And if I do, that evinces a lack of trust on my part. All expressions of love are maximal. Jesus tells us that right at the start of A Course in Miracles in the text. So any healing gift is loving, it's maximal. Any extension of love is maximal. It's perfect just as it is. And our job, having given it, is to step back and keep giving, but not to worry about the outcome, nor to doubt our own effectiveness as the giver of the gift. It would be a lack of trust, indeed, if I were to run off and doubt my own abilities just because a person or a select group of people scrolled away and chose to go about watching something else. God knows there's a hell of a lot of content available on YouTube, isn't there? I mean, really, there's everything on there. So some part of you called you to watch this. That's worth noting because it's worth paying attention to. So should healing be repeated? It doesn't have to be repeated. Now you can choose, and I hope that you do, to give the gift of love, of healing again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Ad infinitum, right? Keep doing it. Keep giving. With no concern about the outcome. Trust that the outcome is certain. The spiritual path is all about trust. It's about learning to relax and trust. That's it. That's all. So keep showing up in whatever form and trust that you're doing the right thing. Trust that everyone in your circle of influence and beyond needs you, who you are, not who they think you should be, because that may not match up, right? Everyone needs you to do this work. As you do it, just trust that people are going to get what they are supposed to get and meant to get right now in the moment. I never know who may be watching, possibly on the other side of the world, and I will not know unless you notify me that something I may have said changed your entire life. Because I don't know who may be listening, we never know who may be paying attention. Our job is to show up and extend love. That is what we do. And having done that, we trust that the people, the world, the recipient of that gift will accept it when the time is right. And trust that that gift is waiting for them. It is never lost. Nothing is lost in terms of spirituality, ever, ever. So please, please take heart in that. And I will see you as we go through the remainder of the manual. Thank you so much, as always, for your practice and for joining me here.